Everyone, today I want to talk to you about how to protect the security and the access of your business by using an app called LastPass. So I think it's Wednesday, business tracking time. Yeah, it's Wednesday morning. It's got a nice Wednesday morning, and it's all things business systems and outsourcing. So I have quite a lot of experience in this field, and this is something that is super important, but so many people don't have set up correctly. So let me just explain a little story that often happens with people. And this is I'm just going past someone, so just bear with me a second. Morning. So so firstly, this is more relevant now than it's ever been. Every single business, every single Tom, Dick and Harry seem to be moving into a kind of remote working infrastructure. It's just come out this morning that social distancing rules are limiting 6 people or more. 6 people, it's illegal to mix with 6 people or more in a social environment. So again, more and more reason for people not to go to work and to work for remote locations. Morning. So it's very, very relevant. We're in a world now where remote workers will possibly be the new way moving forward. So what's the biggest problem that this poses? Well, first and foremost, when you're in an office and you're setting up systems and processes, somebody needs access, you just set it up on their computer. Their computer is normally a work-based computer, and it's in the office, connected to a secure server. But so it's really, really easy and well contained. If someone's not having access, they'll just wander over to the person who can give it here, and they'll set them up. Well, now we're in a situation where we're expecting the same amount of responsibility, and going past some more people here. Morning. And we're expecting the same amount of output productivity, but you might have that same office split between 5 or 6 different destinations. Could be overseas, could be UK, and those individuals need to be able to access information on servers and access pieces of software in order to be able to fulfill their role in a remote location. So it's all about the access here, and this is where LastPass comes in, really, really important. The story I was going to tell you about is the amount of people I used to meet who would be in trying to work with virtual assistants for the first time. Now, this is not just applicable to virtual assistants like my dad or remote workers. It is applicable to anybody who needs access to something in a remote location. So that's really, really important to understand that it's not limited to virtual assistants. But I hear lots of horror stories about people working with virtual assistants and doing one of 2 things. One, either setting up the virtual assistant with a new paid account if it's not actually required. So they're increasing their cost of giving their virtual assistant access to software to be able to complete the work remotely. So that's an increase in cost. Or 2, which okay, that's not necessarily wrong, but it can be wrong in many situations. If you're looking to kind of monitor overhead exposure, it's not necessary. You can still get that level of security without the need to set up a whole new paid account. And you can do that by sharing your own logins in a safe environment, which is where LastPass comes into play. The second one, which is even worse, is where the business owner just gives the username and password details to someone really they probably don't know that well. Someone remote. And most people out there, I don't do this generally. I used to do it. It's a bit appalling, but most people will just use the same username and password for everything. So ultimately, if you give somebody access to that, they've potentially got access to possibly your banking, your email addresses, your social media accounts, everything you use. They can try that same username and password, and it's highly likely that will work in many instances out there. So it's a massive, massive security risk. It's something that can be mitigated really cheaply and really easily by using LastPass. So what does LastPass do? Okay, so let's go past this person and I'll explain to you. Morning. You got savaged by a dog. Anyway, so what does LastPass do? Well, basically, it allows you to share username and passwords securely with somebody else remotely, and they don't see the username and password details. They might see the username in certain instances, but they never see the password. And the way they log in and use that, it's encrypted. So they basically click a link from their LastPass account, and it will go to the site or the platform they're trying to access, and it will automatically log them in. So they won't have to, or it will automatically populate in a hidden field their password details, login details, and then it will log them in. So, and they don't ever see your username and password, but they get the same level of access as you do, depending on what you've shared. So there are situations that you have to work out for yourself whether it is justifiable that you set the VA up or the remote worker with their own account for certain pieces of software. So things like audit trails and things like, if they're accessing your accounting software, for example, you probably want to set up their own account so you can see all the different and track all the different actions and things that have happened by name. So you can see if there's an error made, you can go back and see who's been doing what. Otherwise, if they were logging in with your account, it would show all the activity was done by you, when in reality it could have been done by anybody you shared your username and password with. So you need to have a little bit, there will be situations where a separate username and password for an individual is required, but even in that instance, you want to set that up and share it by LastPass because you own that username and password. Because the other fear that you have here is that, you know, you get horror stories about VAs and remote workers changing your username and passwords and basically taking over your accounts and over your subscriptions, and you don't have control over that. So it's really, really important that you protect yourself from this, because it's one of those things that I think, oh, that'll never happen to me, but believe me, it does happen, and it can be up there with the most disruptive aspects, not only of your business but your life. Someone's got access to all your stuff, having to reset all of the accounts and passwords, protecting to ensure that everything's secure is super, super important. So how LastPass, if you've got multiple tiers, there is a free version. A lot of people can get by the free version. Although if you're starting to work with teams of people, I would suggest going for LastPass Business Teams. There is a family setting in it. I mean, LastPass isn't the most user-friendly, I might add, in terms of how it's all set up and what you can do with it. Because there's some quite complicated stuff you can do with it, with user permissions and admin rights and all these types of things. But ultimately, there's kind of two levels that most people will fall into. If you're a one-man band and you're working with one other individual, then the free version of LastPass is fine. You can just simply share your usernames, etc., and passwords securely to that one other person with a very simple invitation, and they'll have access to it, and you can switch them off when you choose to. So that's really key. The second one is LastPass Business Teams. Okay, so if you've got teams of people, you then get the capability of starting setting up shared folders. Shared folders become really, really important when you're kind of separating things by department, and you might have a team of people in your finance, but you want them to have access to finance-related software and subscriptions, whereas you don't want to have access to the marketing, for example. So you can have a finance and marketing folder, all of the access details in one folder, and then you can set the permissions in that folder very, very bespokely, so you can let everybody have access to all of it. Or you might have some people in that folder having access to all, some of it having for a few, but it will be nicely tidied up, and you get a lot of options, and you can set things up exactly how you choose. So I use LastPass Business Teams, and it's really cool. I don't overcomplicate it. I just generally have kind of my personal stuff separate, and I have my business stuff separate, and I have it all in kind of one shared folder. I quite like it. It's not probably the most efficient way of doing it, but it works for me, and it saves having to spend ages trying to set it all up in a kind of much more structured fashion. I have one folder for business, But everybody who's in that shared folder with me has bespoke rules. So I set people up bespokely, and I can. The really cool thing is if somebody ever leaves, I can just click a button and they're completely cut off from accessing any of my stuff without having any kind of security related issues. So I hope this is giving you a kind of high level overview of LastPass, but it is one of the most important apps you'll use. As I said before, there are other password sharing software stuff you can use, but LastPass seems to be one of the most robust that I've found. I have dabbled in, people dabble in like the iCloud stuff and keychain and things. People dabble in other platforms, but the best thing about LastPass compared to kind of the native keychain or anything is the sharing ability. And there's a lot of places out there that will protect your passwords or store them so you don't forget them yourself. But when it comes to sharing access with others, then you need something a little bit more robust, like LastPass. It's not expensive. It's I think it works out as I think it's about 10 to 15 pounds a month, something like that bracket, which might sound more than you'd like to spend, but trust me, it's an investment in the security of your business. So I don't see that as a big investment. It gets more expensive if you start setting up additional users on the paid platform. But as I've said before, I've never had the need to do that. I just have the paid account, which gives me the functionality to share with people having free accounts. So that's kind of how I do it. So to summarise, I hope it's been useful. To summarise, LastPass is one of several options to protect the kind of security and access of your business infrastructure and personal infrastructure if you have a PA, so that you can share username and password securely to anyone, anywhere around the world. There's one caveat: if you are giving people access to things like social media and things where there are additional security requirements, such as logging in from the same country, etc., then you need to use a VPN, which is a virtual private network for somebody, say, from the Philippines, to be able to log in through a UK or EU server, which or wherever you are in the world, your local kind of country server, so that it doesn't flag up any security risks with the program you're sharing it from. I'll talk to you about VPNs on another episode, but they can be super complicated. But for how I use them and how I recommend you use them in a similar structure to me, it's very, very simple. So you're sharing username and passwords securely with people. If you're doing it on a one-man band basis with one other, just use the free version of LastPass. You get enough capability. But if you're starting to build a team, you definitely need business teams. Don't go for the family one, as there are restrictions in that. And also, when you try and upgrade from a family to a business, it's really problematic. So just go straight to the business. There's very little difference in price. And the business one is what you need because it gives you the functionality that I've just explained. Having the ability to set up bespoke, folders by role, add people, remove people to multiple folders, remove people entirely. It's really nice and, a nice interface to kind of share things with clarity. So really, really key. So hope it's useful. As always, any questions on this stuff, just drop me a line. I will start to do loads of videos on all this stuff in the future when I start building this vlog out into kind of a website, and I'll start hosting training videos and stuff in there as well. Like I say, I'm not selling anything here. It's just this is stuff that I've kind of got hanging about, so I can share it relatively easy with the stuff that I use to train my team. So if you find it useful, I'd say ask any questions, drop me a comment, I'll respond. It's a bigger topic. Again, drop me a question. I'll do a separate blog episode and tag you in. I'll still try and respond if I can in the actual feed. If you think this is good value, please give it a like, or tag whoever you think is going to get benefit from it, or just give it some extra engagement, which is always useful, and it will help more people if you think it's useful. If it's not for you, just unfollow, unfriend me. Absolutely no problem. Don't want to be cluttering up people's feeds who don't want to see me. So that's absolutely fine. But before you go, do check out the Runpreneur Facebook group or the Runpreneur YouTube channel, where I think it's episode 101 now. They're all catalogued by 7 different topic areas, so you can kind of go in on an ad hoc basis and use these videos as a free resource as and when you need them. Do follow me on my other social platforms, because I'm starting to do unique content on each platform. So hopefully there'll be some stuff on there that will be useful in kind of maybe infographics and stuff like that, rather than just this long form video format. And that's pretty much it for me. As always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.